did for me anyway. We have the retreat this weekend, and Joe will be there. Anybody else? Well, Terry will be there.
Hopefully.
And
I didn't make the last one, so.
no, there'll be 19 people there, so that'll be a big circle. Yeah, it'll be good. It's all pretty much filled up, so that's this weekend. I'll tell you all about it when we get together next time. Okay, so how's everybody's meditation practice going? Daily?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Is your name is Christine? What is your?
Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I thought I saw your name on Meetup. Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a daily practice?
Oh yeah.
Great.
I fell off, just I feel like everyone does for a little bit, and yeah, but I've been meditating again. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Great. This is like a core group right here. So that's all right. And so of course the benefits show themselves on a daily practice, and then it just takes care of itself. And then we meet here just to kind of share with like-minded people, right? And just have an evening out in Mesa, get out on the street and drive around until we find a meditation place, which is this. And it's all good. Yeah. A little bit about, we try to put out an invitation, each week, for us to look at different things that come up, and one, we in Buddhism, a few things that come up that are kind of standards, if we're not talking about the body, is feelings and states, or emotions, and moods and these kinds of things. And of course, anytime we identify or hang on to any of these things, we stand a chance of suffering, big time, but we also stand a chance of just feeling uncomfortable. And a lot of times in meditation, we have an opportunity to become sensitive to all this, to be able to use it to a certain degree. So if we can notice something coming up and notice how it feels within the body, we can use the body as a tool for that. If we think about something that happened in the past, for example, we think about it and dwell on it, and the same juices and the same chemistry in the body happens just as exactly as if it's happening. So the body doesn't know whether it's actually happening again, or if we're just creating that in the mind. And of course we're talking about creating it in the mind. And so it's interesting, and then in like I said, in meditation, when we're focused and calm mind, clear-minded and calm and everything, we can notice that feeling within the body, and that can be kind of a learning point for us when we recognize that as a trigger, and immediately tell ourselves that I'm just creating that. I'm creating it in the mind. It's not real. We just kind of remind ourselves of that, and generally what happens is that awareness allows all of that to dissipate more quickly than if we were drawn into it, and what I say by identifying with it, And same way when we're thinking about, things that we have to get done in the future, things we have to accomplish and achieve, Of course, all these things are fine and they shouldn't be disregarded, but in our meditation, it's not a time for that, trying to accomplish something or fix something. So we can listen to the body, and the body can tell us a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen to the body. They think all of this is just natural, And when we start listening to the body, we can actually start healing the body, through our ability to, in some traditions they call it chi. We have all these these molecules and atoms and subatomic particles of all sorts, within the body. And basically what it is a bunch of batteries. We have a plus and a minus. And so all these different organisms point to us that we're not individuals, first of all. And they also point to us that when we do such things as meditate and understand how the subconscious works, we can direct this in such a way that we can actually use it to heal and to be very beneficial for us when we kind of learn to direct it in the right way. So that's our invitation tonight, is just really to, we all have a practice, we all been practicing for a long time, but to really kind of tune into the body and see what it's doing while we're examining these feelings and these emotions, and these different things that come up for us. Not grasping or attaching to any of it, just allowing it to be and see how it works for us. Any questions on that? Pretty simple stuff, things that we've been doing probably all along, many of us, in our meditation practice. So we'll probably have a very nice, quiet night, with the exception of a few airplanes. We don't want to hang on to those either. So. Whose is that? Who is that?
What?
I heard it.
I heard the phone.
Oh, I
Vibrate.
There's a I was just trying to find somebody to blame for that buzzing.
It would be $5.
That $5 in the kitty, yeah. That's better than having it ring, though. I've been guilty of that myself. So. I have to admit. So please make yourself comfortable, and I'll guide us through the first portion of this meditation. Allow the eyes to close. We close our eyes and bring ourselves into a comfortable, friendly environment. We slowly become sensitive to everything that arises into our awareness, including sensations of the body, along with feelings, and a whole array of memories and thoughts. And when we learn to treat the positive, happy thoughts the same way as the negative, sad or angry or fearful thoughts, when they're treated the same within our meditation practice, we know that we're making some pretty good progress. Because we notice that we are just simply watching. And the gauge for that, ability to be the watcher is the body in most cases. We can feel all these different sensations within the body in relation to negativity or pleasantness. And then again, when we reach that neutral area, we don't feel that as much in the body, if at all. So we just watch. We're not affected or reactive to thoughts and feelings, states. use the body in meditation, we can focus and notice the sensations, as well as, of course, focusing on the breath, if that's what we're using for a meditation object. And it's kind of the moments from when we're focused on the breath to when we notice that our attention's not there anymore. It's that those moments in between them that can kind of surprise us, where the body is reactive at times. So we say that we want to all be in charge of the mind, to be in control of the mind. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're able to stop the thoughts, stop the thinking process, and the memories, these types of things. But what we can do is again, I'll use the phrase, be the watcher, and notice all of this as it comes up, but not be so reactive to it. And it's not that we're trying to not be reactive, we're just allowing the natural process to be as it is through our awareness. When we're aware of something, again and again and again, we become desensitized to it. And this can be beneficial for our meditation practice, that we are not taken back or not drawn towards something. So pleasantness and unpleasantness is more of a neutrality than anything else, rather than opposites. And we should always remember that if we are reactive to something, that's fine too. We are just human, and it's something that takes place again and again. But we should also be able to watch and notice that reactivity that we are, is actually taking place. And then that's where the healing really comes in for us. So we're taking in a way, taking a simple process. And the more we talk about it and more we explain it, the more complicated it can seem. But we're just simply focusing on something. We're putting our focus on something. And in this case, it's probably the breath. Our attention leaves the breath after a while without us probably even noticing very much of it. And it starts going into different time slots and different memories and different activities. And there's somewhat of a reaction to them. And sometimes it's a big reaction that we can notice, and sometimes a smaller reaction. And this is very natural. Then we notice that the attention is not on the breath. We bring it back to the breath, and we notice that in this focus and concentration, as light as it is, it's very healing and very neutral place for us. Very calming. And in this whole process, we want to be able to accept everything that's happening. Accept everything that's coming up into our awareness and passing away. knowing that it's all impermanent, very temporary. So if everybody has a card, Loving Kindness Sutra, we'll recite this together. To attain the state of peace, one skilled in goodness should be able, upright, perfectly upright, gentle in speech, kind, and free from pride, contented, easily satisfied, with limited duties and unburdened livelihood, controlled in senses, discreet, reserved, and not blindly attached to groups. One should not commit the slightest wrong, that the wise might censor, wishing, may there be happiness and security, may all beings be happy. Whatever beings there are, whether feeble or strong, tall or short, large, medium, or small, microscopic or mammoth, leaving none, seen or unseen, living near or far away, born or to be born, may all beings be happy. Let one not deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither in anger nor in ill will should one wish another harm. Just as a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so one should cultivate a limitless concern for all living beings. Extend loving kindness throughout the world without limitation, above, below, and across, free of obstruction, enmity, or hostility. Whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, one should diligently sustain this mindfulness. This is called sublime living. Without holding narrow views, but being endowed with broad vision and avoiding attachment to sense desires, the virtuous are not born again into this world. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. And may we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or difficulties that we might face. Thank you all. Nice meditation. It was for me anyway. I can't speak for everyone else, but if we kind of read the body and notice how the body feels, and that was the invitation. And this is something that we all do on a regular basis, but sometimes when we kind of accent something, it can kind of point us in the right direction and help us out. Just shining that light of awareness on different things at different times. So that's the whole idea behind those invitations. And any questions, anybody, about their practice? Or anything for that matter? I was talking to one of my long-distance students, with the teacher training program. There's people all over the United States and Canada, and I get a chance to talk to them from time to time, which sounds strange, to get a chance to talk to your students from time to time. Some of them I never get a chance to talk to, but because it's online training and that kind of thing. But we still communicate a lot. But in this case, I got a chance to talk to this person, and they're kind of in a dilemma, which I didn't feel was a dilemma at all. But they had an opportunity to teach at some Buddhist centers and things like that. But they felt like they weren't a Buddhist, like they weren't, they certainly weren't ordained, and they didn't really even have that much interest in Buddhism. And we got to talking and find out that this person, of course, they went through the teacher training program, and they learned a lot about meditation and mostly, about mindfulness and how, about being mindful and what mindfulness is. And I had a, just simply a reminder that really the heart of Buddhism, especially in the West here, is the practices, the practice of meditation and mindfulness. And if it wasn't for, if it wasn't for the Buddha, we wouldn't have mindfulness. And if it wasn't for mindfulness, we wouldn't have Buddhism either. And so it's kind of that type of thing where they kind of fed each other. And what I mean by that is that most of us understand that the Buddha, he studied meditation, practiced meditation, before his awakening, but it wasn't effective until he started incorporating mindfulness into the practice, the Vipassana practice that we're doing here. And so it wasn't just the concentration-based practice alone that got him to reach enlightenment. But of course, that had a lot to do with it, the ability to concentrate. And so he was really the founder of mindfulness. He put that program together, but it's not a program or anything. But he put it together in such a way that he taught it. The Anapanasati and the Satipatthana. So when they had retreats and stuff, that was the method that he was actually teaching. And, that's part of the sutras. Of course, he taught a lot of different things as well, but the idea that a person isn't necessarily drawn to Buddhism, that they just like the practices of meditation and mindfulness, and they don't want to learn all the sutras and call themselves a Buddhist, that kind of thing I think it's absolutely fine, that a person can do that. Buddhism is very hard to describe as a religion in the first place, because it's very much a understanding of who we are as, or in many cases, who we aren't as an individual person. So it's very interesting that way. If we have an interested in mindfulness, being mindful and aware, the aware presence that is non-judgmental and has little commentary and decision behind it, that's really enough for us to really be grasping Buddhism without having to call ourselves a Buddhist. Of course, there's nothing wrong with calling ourselves a Buddhist if we want to do that. And so in order to go out and teach others how to meditate, we certainly don't have to be a Buddhist or call ourselves a Buddhist to do that. Because, meditation is not confined to just Buddhism anyway, although that is their primary practice. But we find a lot of meditation in Hinduism and many other Eastern traditions as well. So if it wasn't for Buddhism, we wouldn't have mindfulness, and if it wasn't for mindfulness, we wouldn't have Buddhism, because the Buddha wouldn't have woke up. And there would be nothing that we call Buddhism. And I'm not so sure that Buddha would even agree with all this Buddhism stuff anyway. And in fact, when he was alive, somebody carved a statue of him out of a piece of wood, and he made them burn it. He didn't want, any of that kind of stuff happening. So it's very interesting. He was pretty adamant on not, having a statue of him and having the tradition pass on. He never claimed anybody to be an successor or somebody to take over the tradition and carry the torch, that kind of thing. So I'm not even sure that Buddha would agree with this kind of thing. And Buddha wasn't a Buddhist anyway. He didn't claim himself as a Buddhist. He just said, I teach suffering and non-suffering, or the release of suffering. He went through all of his teaching just saying, that's what I do. I know that we suffer, and I try to teach people how not to suffer. And that's pretty black and white, you know. But then there's a lot behind that, you know. You can't just stop it there. Another thing that kind of that comes up is the idea that when Buddha, you know, in the story of Buddha, when he was living with his father in the kingdom, or you know, it was a pretty luxurious place, you know, for back then, and he had all the fine things of his father gave him all the finest things, you know, period, and to make him stay at home so they wouldn't leave the kingdom, and his father wanted somebody to take over for him, you know, he wanted his son to be heir, but when he was out of the kingdom and he saw the sickness, you know, the people getting sick and aging and dying, and he saw that there's a lot of suffering out there. And then he saw an ascetic, and he said that so these ascetics are going out into the forest and doing these practices, looking for a way to stop the suffering that he was seeing. And the big clencher, the thing that really pushed him out, very interesting, was that his wife had a baby. And he thought, this is going to really get sticky, you know, if I get attached to this child. And he named the child Rahula. And Rahula basically means kind of a ball and chain. But it really means suffering, you know, that this is suffering.
Yikes.
Yeah. But if it wasn't for that little suffering baby, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today either, you know. And we wouldn't have mindfulness to the degree that we have it now. Of course, that's all, you know, we can't imagine what would have happened if the Buddha didn't take that path that he took. Maybe somebody else would have, something else would have happened, you know. Different kind of story, different time, I don't know. But it was for the, you know, and then his wife had the baby, and he's thought, you know, if I'm going to get out of here, this is the time to do it. So he actually left, and he had a friend who was the chariot driver, took him way out in the forest, and he took off his fancy clothes, and he had a lot of jewelry, and he had this real long hair, because the royalty back there had long hair, and they tied it up, and he cut his hair off, and he gave it all to the dude, I can't remember his name, that was driving the chariot, and told him to, you know, take all this stuff and give it to my father so he understands, you know, that the impact of this, you know. And that chariot driver didn't want to do it. He thought, you know, I better stay here and take care of the king's son, you know. And Buddha said, no, you got to get going. Go. And he was wearing this orange, pretty much an orange rag, you know, but an orange robe. And that was the beginning of his seeking. And we all know how seeking can be a problem. You know, if we are looking for something, we can't find it, it just drives us crazy. And so the seeking that the Buddha did was not joyful. You know, he was looking for the end of suffering for everybody. And he was a Hindu, kind of a radical Hindu, and because he turned some things around. You know, the Hindu practices of
Brahmanism?
Of what?
Was it Brahmanism? There was the Brahmins?
Well, yeah, and that's still practiced today. But the sacrifice, and they're doing, you know, probably a lot more animal sacrifices and things like that. And he was really in the no harm zone, you know, not to harm any living creature. And so that was a big part of it too. But yeah, Brahmanism, you know, the caste system, basically. He thought everybody should be treated equal, and that's why he stepped down, himself and became this incredible seeker. And most people know the rest of the story, when he became enlightened. And when he woke up, actually that was the end of seeking. He didn't have to look anymore. So it was a big relief. No more searching for that. Then the next challenge was whether he should teach or not. And he did decide to teach after a couple weeks later. And then that's how we ended up with the first teaching, the Four Noble Truths, which was a fairly basic teaching, but very profound in a way because of the way he delivered it. And it was very much like a doctor. A doctor examines somebody and says that there's a sickness, and that sickness is blank, and it's caused by this, and here's the prescription, basically. So it was very much like a doctor role, that there is suffering, and you're suffering because of this desire, this constant desire. It's causing a lot of stress. There's a cure, and the cure is this path. And here you go. Basically the Eightfold Path, in our tradition. So it's very interesting how we come about and how we call ourselves, if we call ourselves a Buddhist or not. A lot of people are just interested in the Buddhist tradition. I became interested in Buddhism because of meditation. Meditation was first, actually. And read all the meditation books at the library, and then they bumped right into the Buddhist books. Boom. So I read all those, and I thought, this is interesting stuff. And then it led into the Hinduism, and then Taoism, and all that stuff. So I just kept reading, but again, that's a form of seeking as well. It's not exactly living in the forest as an ascetic like the Buddha did, but when we go to the library or we're online, looking up all this stuff, we're seeking, we're looking for the answers. It kind of goes comes full circle. It's like when we are looking and doing that seeking and searching, we can feel it within the body. Just like when we bump up against the feelings or the emotions during our meditation practice. We feel that. So those seeking periods can be a very, very incredible time for everyone. But then we realize that everything that we've been looking for is inside of us. We already have it all. Nothing to look for. Nothing to find out there, particularly. It's been here all along. It's like that. We all have that diamond in our pocket. We just forget to look for it in the right place. It's like, there it is. There it is. Comments or questions?
The one thing I didn't know was it was 6 years, they said, that he was an aesthetic.
Yeah.
It took him 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was a skinny little runt at the end of that. They said that he was so skinny. I mean, he almost died.
Yeah.
He was so skinny that his butt print in the sand looked like a camel print, they said. I don't know what a camel print looks like, but it's very much,
Little bony.
Bony, yeah. So he almost died, and then he didn't even have the strength to really practice. So the story goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got some more strength, and then he started meditating. When he started eating properly, that was his maybe one of his first profound insights is the middle way, you know, between being an ascetic and being a prince. I got to find a way in between here, you know, and really get some work done, you know, get some strength back, eat some food, be healthy, and then, you know, then sit underneath that tree and see how it works out. And thankfully it worked out well for him. Yeah, but he was an ascetic for 6 years. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a weekend retreat or anything like that. It was yeah. But it can happen in a weekend retreat, though, you know. But not for the Buddha. And there's some controversy about this, but it's said that, and I believe it, that he didn't travel more than 200 miles from his birthplace. He walked everywhere, you know, and he taught, you know, right in that area of Nepal. And the people from Sri Lanka will tell you that's different, though, because they said that he spent a lot of time in Sri Lanka. And I don't know, I've never, I haven't seen that in the sutra, but I don't know, I'll have to have somebody explain that to me in detail sometime, how they come up with that. That his travels into Sri Lanka. But everybody wants a piece of it. You know, I think the Buddha spent most of his life in South Dakota, you know, but
He liked it there.
yeah, he liked the weather.
New York City.
New York City, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In Vietnam, in the Mekong Delta, there's a 60-foot statue of Buddha with his arm around Jesus.
Really? I've never seen that. Yeah. Huh. I've never seen that one. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, they were buddies, I'm sure. Or they're ascended beings, so they're probably up there talking about us right now.
Having an ascended master party.
Ascended masters, yeah.
I think it's like the cultural traditions, you know, like if you look at Vietnam, it was occupied by the French, and prior to that, it was the Vietnamese nonetheless, of course, still today.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the Buddhist tradition and the Christian tradition, you know, both, you know, being, in my opinion, anthropomorphized, you know, into, you know, beings
Good word.
of themselves.
Yeah.
And the question really becomes, did they really exist? Were they really here? You know, and then, you know, then everybody's bargaining, well, he was here, he was there, he did this, he did that, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, they both have one thing in common, and that is that neither one of them wrote down anything. You know, there's nothing it would be priceless if we had something written in the hand of Jesus or the hand of Buddha. It just doesn't, they don't exist.
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
You didn't have a tablet or anything?
Nothing. Mm-mm.
Like an iPad?
Yeah, like an iPad.
Oh, an iPad.
Yeah.
You mean like a Moses tablet, not like an iPad?
Yeah. Well, in Buddha's case, I can understand where, you know, they wrote things on banana leaves and things like that, you know, like, I'll write this down for eternity, I'll write it on a banana leaf. What, you know, that's, but in Jesus' time, well, I don't know, Moses did pretty well, you know, he had his tablet.
He had chisels.
Had chisels, yeah,
Tablet.
yeah. So I don't know. But I do know that we are here and we are practicing meditation, and meditation's working for a lot of people. I think it's very healing, both mentally and physically. And I think that it's a good practice. I don't think we can go wrong with it. If there was a cure-all for everything, I would have to say it's, you know, there isn't, but I would have to say it's meditation as a general, you know, a general aid in our evolution and our, you know, our disease of the mind, dis-ease. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Your sister was here last week.
Yeah, I didn't make
Are you two taking turns, or?
it.
Need representation.
Yeah. The whole, yeah. Bring the whole family sometime. That'd be- yeah.
Yeah, when my brother's back.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you. Paul. Well, Gina will be running the thing tomorrow night, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Yep.